Hello, Oilers fans. Austin here with the day after discussion. Yes, we are back. It's one of the first day afters I've done in a while. I'm excited to be back and doing this type of content for everyone. We've got a kitty behind me. Say hi, kitty. How you doing, buddy? He doesn't usually come into the bedroom, my little studio here when I'm recording, so this is a nice little surprise. So if you don't like me, at least hit the like button for Kitty because this is a treat that we get to be blessed by his presence right now. Hi, buddy. How you doing? He's so funny. He's going to be crawling all over my desk now. This is great. But let's get back to the hockey after that quick little intro. Oil Country is pretty on edge after this past weekend. They lost 6-3 to Philly. They lost 7-3 to Washington, and things don't look great. And when you get obliterated in back-to-back games, yeah, I totally understand the sentiment here in Oil Country. I understand the anger. I understand the frustration. And a lot of issues on this roster are looking a little bit exacerbated now with these two losses. The team was not playing very good hockey going into the Four Nations break, and that play continued into the weekend after the Four Nations, except this time they aren't able to find a way to grind out and win games. The Oilers' last two wins have come against St. Louis and Chicago. Not exactly world beaters when you look at them in the standings. No disrespect to either of them. Obviously, NHL teams have NHL players. You can beat anyone on any given night. I never try and look down on opponents. But when they're struggling against teams that are not going to make the playoffs, likely, St. Louis has an outside chance. I don't see them as a playoff team, but you never know. They did just beat Colorado yesterday, 3-1. So, I mean, who knows, man? Hockey's crazy. Maybe Jordan Binnington is going to go back to St. Louis and just go on a crazy run like he did in 2019. Wouldn't that be unbelievable, huh? After being a hero for Team Canada. But for the Oilers, they have been struggling against top-tier teams all season long. Against top two division teams in the entire NHL, the Oilers are 1-8-2, and they have been outscored 45-27 in those games. It is clear that the team, even though they are fifth in the NHL standings, has a lot of work cut out for them. And they have a lot of areas on the roster that need to be improved before the trade deadline and heading into the playoffs. This is a team that is fifth or sixth in the standings now, but they are 15th in regulation wins. Overtime wins have inflated their record a little bit, and their record against bottom 10 teams is inflating their record as well. The Oilers are not great against top 10 teams in the NHL this season. And it goes beyond just goaltending. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the goaltending as well. The goaltending situation is something that obviously has to be discussed because I have seen the light. It's been a few weeks since I started to see the light, and I've come around to the idea of getting an upgrade. And the easiest question that people always ask when I talk about potentially getting an upgrade is, well, who are you going to get? Who's on the market? One, I'm not a general manager, so I don't know who's on the market. I'm not in hockey ops. Like, none of us know who is actually on the market. What we do as fans is speculate. What we like to do is pick players that we think would be a good fit for this roster and then hope that the team can make a trade for them. Obviously, when you ask another fan, well, who are you going to get? Who's out there? Obviously, you don't have an actual answer. Like, that type of question is just silly to me. It is our job as fans. We pay for season tickets. We pay for merch. We pay the salaries of the players. We line the pockets of the owners. We should be demanding a little bit more and a little bit better a lot of times, in my opinion. And for me, as a fan who creates content here on YouTube and other platforms, I am not bound by a multi-million-dollar media network. I'm not bound by, having access to the locker room as a credentialed media member. I get to come out here and I have a voice that I try and amplify other fans' concerns as well. A lot of my talking points isn't just me. A lot of the stuff I talk about is fans that I interact with. It's fans that tune into the videos very regularly, comments that I see on my videos all the time. So we're going to get into it. This is going to probably be a pretty long episode. So make sure you get your coffee, make sure you get your pop, your water, get a snack because we got a lot to discuss today. And if you end up enjoying today's video, make sure to smash that like button. And if you really like it, make sure to subscribe to the channel as we continue to push towards 5,000 subscribers. It is a milestone that I am incredibly looking forward to, and I cannot wait. Lots of amazing stuff in store, by the way, on the channel, especially as we get closer to the trade deadline. Now, let's get into this. This is called The Day After. Weekend Travesty is the actual title of The Day After. Usually, I will do a day after and just call it The Day After Philly or The Day After Washington. But I'm kind of condensing both games into this day after just because it was a back-to-back on the weekend. On the right side of the screen, you'll see all the talking points. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see some stats. The two losses, 2-4-1 in their last 7, 1-8-2 versus top 2 teams in divisions. But every single topic while you're watching or listening will be timestamped. So if there's a specific topic that you want to jump to, if there's anything that you want to hear me talk about first, you don't have to watch this video in chronological order. I will make sure everything is timestamped for you. So our topics today, we have our weekend recap. That's just going to be a general recap of how the weekend went, my kind of raw thoughts about the whole thing. Then we're going to talk about the defense. Then we're going to talk about the goaltending. We're going to talk about the forwards. We're going to talk about the penalty kill. We'll talk about the trade deadline a little bit because obviously we need to start talking about that, getting an idea of what players the Oilers should be going after. And I want to know your thoughts on the trade deadline as well, by the way. So let me know who the Oilers should be targeting, top 6 forward, Steve man, goalie, whatever you think, let me know. And then we'll have a little outlook for the Tampa, Florida, and Carolina games because those are the next 3 games on the schedule for Edmonton on this Eastern road trip. And the schedule does not get easy, man. The team's got to find a way to dig themselves out of the little hole that they're in right now. So without, further ado here in saying all of that, let's do a quick recap of the weekend. Quick little recap of the weekend for the Edmonton Oilers. Saturday morning, they played 11 a.m. Connor McDavid's back in the lineup from the Four Nations. A lot of us thought that maybe he should have taken the weekend off. Just, maybe at minimum, take the Philly game off, right? He didn't get a break during the Four Nations when everyone else did. Other than Arvidsson and Ekholm, I guess. But most of the team got a break. Connor McDavid did not. Connor McDavid didn't look great in that Four Nations finale. Obviously scoring his golden goal moment for Team Canada is huge, and it's amazing. But even he admits that he didn't play very good in the finals against the Team USA. And it's not just the Four Nations where Connor McDavid has looked a little off. He's been looking off in large stretches during this season. Yeah, he still has 50 assists, leads the team in assists. He's still an unbelievable player. I think he's 4th in league scoring. Obviously, I'm not concerned about his overall ability, but it's clear there's something maybe going on. He's been hurt a couple times this season. He's been sick. He got suspended. He hasn't been 100%. And I really just think giving him at minimum the Philly game off would have been good just for his mental and physical health. Now, I'm not in that locker room. If you tell Connor McDavid he can't play and he's like, yeah, you can't tell me what to do, I'm lacing them up. It's pretty hard to tell the best player in the world that he can't play. So maybe Knoblauch wanted to give him the day off. McDavid might have told him to F off. Who knows? But for the Oilers, though, general weekend recap here. 6-3 loss to Philly, and they looked... Okay, well, I'd say they looked good in the first period, other than the first 5 minutes. There was a bit of a lag period there, a bit of an adjustment for the first 5 minutes against Philadelphia. But I felt the next 15 minutes, Edmonton actually controlled play, and I thought they looked really, really good. They had a 2-1 lead after the first, looking pretty good, feeling good. You're like, okay, this is good. We like this. And then they come out in the second period, and they don't look horrible, but Philly gets the tying goal. And then Philly gets the 3-2 go-ahead goal. And then there's a little bit of concerns there. You're like, okay, I don't know. Like, do we want to save? Is this a defensive issue? But don't worry, the Oilers get the tying goal right back. Ekholm gets one. Leon Draisaitl, who I thought was the only Oiler that had a good weekend. I wouldn't even say a great weekend because nobody had a great weekend on this team. Leon Draisaitl, he gets an assist on Ekholm's tying goal against Philly. That's lovely. We're right back in it. Edmonton is controlling the play. They're getting the more shot attempts. I think the next 5 or 6 shot attempts were for the Oilers. Philly gets one more shot attempt against Edmonton. It's in the back of the net, 4-3 Philly. And then it was pretty much all she wrote from there. The Oilers completely collapsed. They did not find an attacking rhythm the rest of the game. Philly makes it 5-3 before the end of the period to go into the third up 2. And for the Oilers, this is a team that has been chasing games a lot. They just keep chasing games. And when you're chasing games, whether you had the Four Nations break in between or not, this is something that is exhausting for the players. It's exhausting on them physically, mentally. It's exhausting for the coaching staff. And for us fans, oh my God, it is incredibly exhausting. If a lot of you who do tune in very regularly, you'll understand the sentiment here when I talk about how exhausting it is for the fans. In a lot of my post-game reactions where the Oilers have won over the past few weeks, a lot of times I'm not like super excited or happy. A lot of times I'm like, hey, can we just win a hockey game the normal way? Like, can we just not be behind and try and come back with this heroic effort in the third period? But there was no heroic effort in the third period against Philly. Team was bagged. They didn't look great. The line combos were all over the place. And Philly gets an empty netter. You lose 6-3. Like, okay, you know what? Fine. 6-3 loss against Philly. You know what? Matvei Michkov, he had a great game. Owen Tippett, great game. Like, these are guys, like, Philly has good players. They have good young players that, when they're utilized properly, John Tortorella, talking to you, my man, they're a very good team, and they're very hard to play against. At minimum, Philly is hard to play against. Even when they're losing, they're still hard to play against, because that's how John Tortorella teams play. They make your life miserable. But fine, you lose 6-3 to Philly. You can just wipe the slate clean. It's no big deal. You get to play the next day. Let's go into Washington. Let's see what we can do against a top-tier team. Calvin Pickard gets the start, which I did think was surprising. Usually on back-to-backs, Calvin Pickard gets the start against the team that is lower in the standings. They usually save the tougher starts for Stuart Skinner, and they've been doing it all season, and normally most teams do that when you have your starter and your backup. You give your starter the game against the better teams, and you give your backup the start against the weaker teams. That's just usually how it goes in the NHL. Most hockey, most sports, really. Now you go into Washington, and you get an early 1-0 lead. The Oilers finally scored the first goal of the game. Excited. Love that. Draisaitl gets another one, up to 42 on the season. We're feeling good. But the Oilers were never in this one. And other than that first 5-6 minutes or so, they didn't look great. And you can't hang everything on the goaltending in this one. But Washington, they scored 5 unanswered goals. When the game was 3-1, there was a big turning point. Big turning point in the second period. It's a 3-1 game for Washington. They're on the power play. The Oilers get a glorious shorthanded chance. Kasperi Kapanen can't quite get it on his own on a full breakaway, but he gets into a good shooting position, and Lindgren makes a big blocker save on him. Or glove save. I don't remember. It was a big save. All I know is that the puck was rebounded against the half wall. Washington gets possession, and they skate back up the ice in the Oilers zone. They skate into the zone. They set up. Puck comes across to the Ovechkin area, the Ovechkin spot, you can call it. The Ovi one-timer, his patented Ovi one-timer, and he just roofs it over Calvin Pickard, who can't get over in time, and it's 4-1 Washington. And at that point, we all knew the game was over. A lot of us probably thought the game was over when it was 3-1, but let's be real. When they made it 4-1, the game was over. And as a fan, I think it's okay for us to be deflated. And at home, we put our head down. We're like, oh man, this sucks. Like, we'll see if they can find a way to make it a game, but they're definitely not winning this one. But the response of the players after that fourth goal was horrifying. The next line goes out, and they are flat-footed, bad turnover at the Washington blue line. Puck comes the other way, and everyone is just standing around. Nobody is taking anybody. Washington just sets up in the high slot, couple passes back and forth, boom, puck is in the back of your net near the end of the second. It's 5-1. Just horrible defensive coverage, and the goaltender deserves better than that. I know as a fan, we want our goalies to make more saves, but your goalie also deserves a little bit better in front of him too. The team rolled over, and it's not often that the team rolls over. Very rarely does this team roll over, but they rolled over pretty badly against Washington. You go into the third period, you make it 5-2, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe an outside chance they can get another one. Maybe. Nah, Washington, they'll make it 6-2. Guy all alone in the slot, nobody taking him. However, I will say, before that 7th goal for Washington, give me a second here. I'm going to pull it up on the NHL Edge visualizer here. It was Dylan Strome that scored. Now, I do want to see if they are going to... Oh, they are. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the NHL Edge visualizer here for everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously you can see this. If you're listening on Spotify, you won't be able to see this, but I encourage you to come to the YouTube channel and take a look. So Washington enters the zone. Ovechkin's going to put a puck towards Pickard. Now, the puck hits Pickard, drops in front of him, but Pickard, he clears the puck, tape-to-tape pass right back to Ovechkin. This is where fans are getting frustrated with the goaltending because it's not just their inability to make timely saves, it's some of the decisions they make with the puck. Calvin Pickard shoots the puck back out, nice tape-to-tape pass right back to Ovechkin. That wasn't a rebound, by the way. It looked like a rebound. It wasn't. If you look at the actual highlight, he uses his stick and shovels the puck forward, and Ovechkin picks it up. It was just a great pass to Ovechkin. This keeps the play alive. So Washington, they cycle it around, and a shot from the bottom of that right circle, or the bottom of the top circle, whatever you want to call that. The rebound kicks out to the front of the net. It kicks out to Calvin Pickard's like it's like a 90-degree kick out. And from where the shot came from, that rebound should not do that. I know I'm overanalyzing this goal, but this I'm just explaining why fans are frustrated with goaltending. Because 2 major gaffes here led to this goal. Now, in a vacuum, if someone were to just show me this screenshot and they're like, hey, number 17 on Washington, Dylan Strome, he scored. And you look at where the positioning of all the Oilers are, and you see absolutely nobody covering the slot. Evan Bouchard should be way over here. I don't disagree that Evan Bouchard completely lost where he was on the ice. Obviously, he did. Everybody did. This is a bad look. And obviously, Strome, empty net, he's going to put that in. But it's not like people will take a look at that one goal and they'll just post a screenshot of where Strome was right before he shot it into the net. But they're not talking about context leading up to it. Why did Calvin Pickard play the puck forward right back to Alex Ovechkin's stick? Why did that rebound shoot where it did? And of course, where was the defenseman? There are several errors on that play, but this is where fans are frustrated with goaltending because they're not able to make the timely save, and sometimes the puck is not doing what it should be doing when it hits them, whether it's a poor rebound control, whether it's just the goalie deciding, hey, Ovechkin, greatest goal scorer ever in the NHL. Here you go. Take that. Take that puck. That's awesome. Why don't you take that puck and keep the play alive? Our defenders have been so bad all game. We're exhausted. We don't look like we even want to play anymore. Let's keep the play alive and just keep the defenders a little bit more tired. Let's just keep defending. That's fun. What are we doing here? Oilers, obviously, they lose 7-3. Washington gets an empty netter. I don't understand why Chris Knoblauch pulled the goalie when it was 6-3. Unless he had money on Ovechkin getting a hat trick, maybe in the intermission when Ovi had, after his second goal, Knoblauch, he's on Bet365 or whatever app people use. I don't bet, so I wouldn't know. Maybe he's on his phone. Maybe he's making a big bet, put a bunch of money down on an Ovechkin hat trick, and he's like, you know what? I got to cash in here. Let's pull the goalie. Obviously, I'm not saying that Knoblauch is gambling. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just making a joke, but I have to emphasize that because I don't want anyone to take these clips out of context and be like, wow, Austin Hockey is accusing Chris Knoblauch of gambling. What an asshole. It's just, gotta be careful sometimes out here. But that was the weekend recap. The Oilers, they lose 7-3. Ovi gets the hat trick empty netter. I will say, it was nice seeing Ovi's son. It's always nice seeing a hockey player acknowledging their kid in the stands after goals. And for Alex Ovechkin, he moves 3 goals closer to breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal record, which I think a lot of us are excited for. And an incredible historic moment for the sport when it does happen. Maybe it happens this season. Wasn't sure if it would, but Edmonton gave him 3, so you know what? It was also Ovechkin's first career hat trick against the Oilers too. Love that. Just cherry on top of the weekend was Ovechkin getting his first ever hat trick against Edmonton. So thanks for that, Oilers. Thanks for nothing. Unbelievable. All right. Next topic. Let's talk about the defense for Edmonton. Because in a vacuum, just this weekend, they looked bad. Right? Like we can all agree that they just did not look good at all. They looked terrible. Every single defenseman, other than maybe Ty Emberson. I thought Ty Emberson looked pretty good. Didn't mind him at all. But overall, the defense on this team. My question to you, the viewer, or you, the listener, is this defensive group good enough for a long and deep playoff run? Because I could post the stats. If you look at this season as a whole, the Oilers are a top 10 team in shot suppression. They're a top 10 team in suppressing high danger chances. They're a top 10 team in expected goals against. Like, this is a good team that plays well defensively for the most part. This weekend, if you contain it to a 2-game sample size, obviously not. Obviously, it was really, really, really bad. But I do have faith in this group. But there's one specific player that I want to talk about. And it's a tough conversation to have because I don't entirely blame the player, considering the issues that they've had dealing with injuries and rehabbing and coming back and trying to get into game shape. I don't think the Oilers have enough time to properly rehab John Klingberg and have him be an effective D-man on this roster for a playoff run. And I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for John Klingberg to score the cup-winning goal this season. I would love that. But as I look at this D-core right now, I personally would prefer Troy Stecher in the lineup over John Klingberg. Now, Klingberg against Philly, he had a goal and an assist. He was a +1. That's pretty good, right? First goal as an Oiler. He pinched up. Good read to get in there. Didn't get a good shot off, but hey, he scored. That's all that matters. But John Klingberg, since he joined the team, the Oilers defensively are leaking a lot. And it's not just on him, but he doesn't look comfortable. His skating doesn't look great. His passing's a little off. I know timing takes a while. Essentially, he's played 7 games. That's like a preseason for a lot of guys. Sometimes players play 4 or 5 preseason games. You could argue that he's gone through his preseason. Now he's ready for the regular season. But we're 5 games away from the trade deadline. And I really, really hope that this team is not relying on Klingberg being their quote-unquote deadline acquisition for the top 4 on their group. I think you need to go out and get an actual top 4 D-man that has played regular minutes over the past several seasons, and preferably someone with playoff experience too. Klingberg, of course, does have his playoff experience. He had that cup final run with Dallas in 2020, so I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying that he can't do the job, but John Klingberg right now, he just doesn't fit on this group, in my opinion. I think it's great to have puck movers. I think it's great to have players that theoretically should be able to skate. John Klingberg was a good skater, but again, hip resurfacing surgery is very, very difficult to come back and be 100% from, in my very limited knowledge of how that works. And I want to be proven wrong, but I really, really don't think Klingberg is the answer. And I really, really hope Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson and the Oilers organization are not standing pat when it comes to their D group because they think Klingberg is the guy. Oh, they didn't have to give up any assets for him. That's a great deadline acquisition. No. No, I don't want to hear that either, right? It's like when a player comes back from injury, like a player that you have had on your roster all season, maybe they haven't played all year, and they come back from injury and management's like, yeah, that was a good deadline acquisition. We got Evander Kane back, just as an example, right? Not saying Kane is going to be back before the playoffs, but the Oilers need to actually make a move. They need to make a move, get a top 4 D-man, someone preferably that can play with Darnell Nurse. And if you want to have Klingberg as your 7th D, someone that if there's an injury to, let's say, a Bouchard or a Stecher or whatever, yeah, okay. I'm not against that. But the Oilers on the left side, too, they don't have any depth on the left side. If Ekholm, Nurse, or Kulak go down with any form of injury, the Oilers' best option for a call-up that can shoot left-handed is Cam Dineen from Bakersfield. That's not great. So there's a lot of question marks with the defense on the Oilers. I would prefer to maybe move a John Klingberg out and get a left shot D-man in, and then you have Stetcher as an extra D-man too. Just what I think. It's a tough situation. I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm not saying that Stan Bowman is in a spot where it would be an easy thing to do, but that is my recommendation. I don't think this defensive group is bad, but I think there's a couple guys that are definitely not great right now. And I'm not going to talk specifically about anyone else. I know a lot of you are probably wanting me to dump on Evan Bouchard or Darnell Nurse or whoever the whipping boy is that the mainstream media likes to bring into the conversation sometimes. That's not what I'm doing today. I'm just talking about the defense as a whole. And I wanted to talk about John Klingberg specifically just because he has only played 7 games, was the odd man out, and I just don't think he fits personally. Again, prove me wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. Next up on our list of topics here is the goaltending. Now, I put out a few tweets yesterday. 1 or 2. And by 1 or 2, it was like, I don't know, like 20 tweets yesterday. But one of the tweets I asked, and I'm going to read it out to everyone here. I said, ignoring all advanced metrics, are Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard good enough for a playoff run? Can they win you a Stanley Cup? And again, let's ignore everything other than just the raw data. If you just take a look at save percentage, right? Take a look at their stats on the season. Take a look at their stats against top 10 teams. Don't bring the advanced analytics into this because the advanced analytics paint an even worse picture when it comes to our goaltending. Raw save percentage and goals against average. The Oilers are, like I said, they're 5th in the NHL standings, 6th now, I think. But they are inflated by overtime wins. They rank 15th in regulation wins. But for Stuart Skinner on the year, he's 20, 13, and 4. 281 goals against average and an 898 save percentage. Okay, not horrifically bad numbers, but is that a starting goalie on a cup contender? Is that a reasonable level that we should expect from your goalie? And then Calvin Pickard, you look at his record, 14-6. Oh, that's really good. 8 games above 500. He's played 20 games as a backup and he has 14 wins. That's awesome. 269 goals against average. Well, that's not terrible. 896 save percentage. Okay. So what this is telling me is the Oilers are very good at shot suppression. They are very good at preventing a ton of shots against. The Oilers are actually one of the best teams at shot suppression. They only average about 27 shots against per game. That obviously has climbed pretty significantly over the last couple of weeks, but for the most part, this team has defended well all season, and they've given their goalies an optimal system to play behind. They've given their goalies a chance every single night to just make the saves they're supposed to. The Oilers, now let's talk about the advanced analytics here. That's just the raw data. So let me know if you think that's acceptable. As a team, their team save percentage is 893. Now that does include empty nets. But when you look at the team save percentage for every team in the NHL, things balance out. The Oilers rank 27th in team save percentage. They're 6th in the NHL standings, but they rank 27th in team save percentage. That makes you wonder, well, what could the issue be on this team? What could be the glaring issue on this team? They're top 10 in pretty much every statistical category you can imagine, but they're a bottom 7 team when it comes to the goaltending. What's the odd man out here? And people will blame the defense, right? There's always people that are blaming the defense, man. And I get it. Sometimes the brain farts that this team has on D is so aggravating, so frustrating. But we wouldn't be frustrated and be talking about the defense nearly as often if the goalie could just bail them out sometimes. That's all we're asking. You don't have to bail them out every single time. But when a guy like Bouchard, when he's on the ice, he's getting like an 870 save percentage this season. Well, that's going to make Bouchard look really, really bad, right? That's a lot of goals against that are going to be going in when he's on the ice. Is it all on Bouchard? No. Is it all on the goalie? No. But there are going to be holes There are going to be chances against. Your last line of defense is your goalie. We just want a save. Getting into some of the advanced metrics, high danger chances against per 60. The Oilers rank first in the NHL. They give up 9.47 high danger chances against per 60 minutes. That ranks first in the entire league. And that includes this weekend, by the way, where they gave up, I think it was 25 high danger chances in 2 games, which is just, that's crazy. Should never happen. But when the Oilers are not playing up to their standard, their goaltending is also not there to help bail them out. We talk about this team. We talk about, other teams. The Oilers get goalied a lot. The quote, goalied. Oh, man, the Oilers getting goalied again. When was the last time we could say that about Edmonton against another team? When was the last time another fan base could tune in to an Oilers game and be like, wow, we're getting goalied by Stuart Skinner today. Credit to Stu. We're getting goalied. And you can make the argument maybe that Buffalo game? Maybe? I don't know. And I think it's really funny too, and I talked about this in my post-game reaction yesterday. There was a mainstream media member. There was a couple, actually. Not going to name names because that's not what I do here. And I don't want any of you to go after them. I'm just bringing this up because it is a talking point. The Oilers lost against Washington because they're too small. Washington's just a bigger team. What? What do you mean Washington's a bigger team? That's why they won. Are you kidding me? That's wild. That is wild analysis coming from mainstream media. And there's a reason why so many fans, like myself, are just tired of listening to them sometimes. And there's a reason why the players hate being asked questions by them. Right? If I was a player, I would be like Leon Draisaitl all the time with the media. I would just be snarky and sassy, and that would drive me mental. But, when you have that narrative, okay, are the Oilers too small? Did they get bullied by Washington? Well, no. Washington now hit the Oilers by 1. I think the hits were 17-16, according to the NHL Game Center. It's not like Washington was running us over. It's not like Washington had 45 hits in the game and were just crushing us along the boards and preventing us from getting out of our zone because of their size. Is Washington a big team? Yeah. But that's not why the Oilers lost. That's one of, if not the last reason why they lost. And then my response to that was, well, okay, were the Oilers too small of a team against Washington when they played in Edmonton? Because the Oilers outshot Washington that night 32-14. They completely dominated the Capitals at 5-on-5, and they lost 3-2 because, again, Stuart Skinner, 3 goals on 14 shots. Not great. The Oilers only gave up 14 shots in that game against the Capitals and still lost. But the Oilers played well. They should have won. And there are a lot of games this season where I do think the Oilers should have won, but it's usually because they have the second best goalie. And that's just a fact. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you like Skinner and Pickard or not, it doesn't matter. The fact is the Oilers, more nights than not, have the second best goalie. And sometimes during the season, it doesn't matter. If you have the second best goalie in games where you're still winning, the problem is they have the second best goalie every single time they play a top 10 opponent. And in the playoffs, who do you play in the playoffs? You play top 10 teams, right? Maybe you're lucky, you win the division and you play a wild card team in round 1. But after that, you have to beat really, really good teams. And even teams that are in wild card positions are sometimes very good. So that's my thoughts on the goaltending. Let me know your thoughts. Moving on now, let's talk about the forwards. And this is not just a weekend thing. Just in general, we'll talk about the forwards. And mostly I want to talk about the utilization of the forwards, the line combinations. Tell me, and be honest with me. I'm very curious. Just be honest. When the lineup card was posted for yesterday's game against Washington, were you confident that the Oilers could win? Be completely honest with me. I'll let you answer that just in your own head if you want to put it in the comment section. When you saw the lineup posted before the game against Washington, did you think Edmonton could win that game? You had Podkolzin and Kapanen on line 1, right? I'm just curious. And this is not just a yesterday issue that I have with Chris Knobloch. I thought coming out of the break, the coaching staff had 2 weeks to go over video, go over analysis, go over the season as a whole with their team, and put together the optimal line combinations coming out of that break. I really did think that coming out of the Four Nations, Knobloch and his coaching staff would have their lineup set and they would stick with it up until the trade deadline. But what happened was 3 shifts into the game against Philly, he was already changing everything up. They brought up Matthew Savoy, and I thought he played good against Philly. He had an assist, first NHL point. He only played 13 minutes. He was only at like 11 minutes until there was 4 minutes left in the third. And then yesterday, he played the least amount of every single forward on the team. If you want to get a look at the kid, if you want to see what you have in him, if you want to see if he can play with Draisaitl or McDavid, why are you limiting his ice time so much? Especially yesterday, by the way. That game against Washington was done after the second period. So why are you not just letting Savoy go out and play his game and see what you have for the third period? Why are you not giving him 5 or 6 minutes in that third period? Like that, I don't know. That didn't make sense to me. I think Savoy had 2 shifts in the entire third. Like, I don't get it. And maybe I'm not supposed to get it. Maybe as a fan that is on the outside that looks in, maybe I don't understand the nuances of the game. Maybe I don't understand the buttons that are pushed. Maybe I don't understand what the coaching staff here in Edmonton is doing leading up to the deadline. Maybe it's calculated. Maybe they're getting looks at guys that shouldn't be in the top 6, like Podkolzin and Kapanen, and no offense to those guys. I like them as players. I love Podkolzin. But maybe he's putting guys that generally aren't top 6 or known to be top 6 players in the top 6 to see if that's an area that the team needs to upgrade. Because, hey, what if Podkolzin had scored 2 goals yesterday? And then they kept him with McDavid and he gets another goal. And okay, well, maybe we don't need a top 6 winger, right? Maybe, if we need to adjust lines during the playoffs, we can play a guy like that with McDavid. But I think the way the line combinations have gone the last 2 games for Edmonton here, it just shows how badly this team needs another scoring winger, preferably in the top 6. And this is something that we've been talking about since, God, I don't even know how long. 2011, 2012. Seems like every single trade deadline, every single year. Oh, what's the Oilers shopping list? No, top 6 winger, top 4 D-man, and a goalie. But we will talk about that once I get to the trade deadline. But for the forward group, it's not good enough. Connor McDavid is minus 11 in his last 4 games. Now, to be fair, 2 of those are empty netters, so it's like, okay, whatever. That's still very bad. Minus 9 in the last 4 games. Yesterday, he was a minus 3. Game against Philly, he was a minus 3. Game before the Four Nations, he was a minus 3. Concerning trend there for Connor McDavid. He's a plus 4 on the entire season now. The last, obviously, couple weeks here have really just like deflated his plus minus. And plus minus is not a stat that like I put a lot of stock into unless it is a clear outlier to the rest of the team. And Connor McDavid, it's a clear outlier right now. Now, the team save percentage, like the save percentage when he's on the ice is not good. Like it seems like every time McDavid's out there, a puck is beating his goalie, whether it should beat him or not. But for Connor McDavid, he's tired. Can't rest him now. The opportunity to rest him was this weekend. You need him in the lineup against Tampa, against Florida, against Carolina. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what you do with the forward group here. At this point, put Nugent Hyman back with McDavid. Put Podkolzin back with Draisaitl. Whatever you want to do with Janmark, Henrique, and Brown, I don't care. And whatever you want to do with Corey Perry, Kasperi Kapanen, whatever you want to do with these guys, keep them in the bottom 6. And maybe go back to the top 6 that was working for a long stretch of this season. Because whatever Knobloch's doing now is clearly not working. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the penalty kill here, and then we'll talk about the trade deadline. We'll take a quick outlook for Tampa, Florida, Carolina, and then we'll kind of close things out. The penalty kill. My goodness gracious. Very bad. It seems like every time the Oilers take a penalty now, the puck is going into the net. But I was kind of doing some deeper digging on the penalty kill. I was like, okay, is this team actually like this bad on the penalty kill? Or is it a goaltending issue? Is it maybe they're giving up a lot of chances and that's why the puck's going in a lot? The Oilers this season are a top 5 team in the expected goals against on the penalty kill. They're a top 10 team in terms of the quality chances that they give up. Top 10 being good, by the way. They're not like top 10 in giving up these chances. They're top 10 at suppressing the high danger chances on the kill. And it comes back to goaltending. This penalty kill, from a systematic standpoint, the way they play on the kill is strong. They generally keep things to the outside. They generally prevent the cross slot pass. And they generally prevent their goaltender from having to move laterally. And all of this data can be found on multiple websites. So this is not just me talking out of my ass. I will link some of those, by the way, if you are curious. But they are a bottom 5 team on the kill. Their penalty kill percentage is brutal. Let's actually take a look at it real quick. I'm going to bring it up. Give me a second here, just to pull it up on my one monitor. I should have had it pulled up earlier. So they rank 26th in the league on the kill. So what is that, bottom 8? Bottom 6? Bottom 6. That's bottom 6. I know how to do math. It's 74% on the season. And for a while, it was running pretty hot, right? I think there was a stretch in January where they were lights out. But again, a lot of this is coming down to goaltending. One of the power play goals that they gave up yesterday against Washington was an absolute muffin from the blue line with no real traffic in front, and it beats Calvin Pickard 5-hole. And it's goals like that that just have to be backbreaking sometimes. You just have to be throwing your arms up in the air and be like, what do you do? Like, if you're a penalty killer and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know what else to do. We didn't give Washington a good shot at all in this power play, but that shot still goes in. It's been a story all season long. A lot of this, again, I talk about, it all comes back to goaltending. But the penalty kill, I don't think the kill is nearly as bad as the raw data is showing. I don't think that they're a team that should be giving up as many goals as they are, and I think a lot of this has to do more with the goaltending than the personnel. However, I am not against the Oilers going out and getting a penalty kill specialist at the deadline. Now, my personal target, now that we're going to talk about the deadline here, one of my personal targets would be Trent Frederick from the Boston Bruins. Plays in the bottom 6. He's mean. He's tough. He's kind of a psycho on the ice, kind of like that. He can skate. He can put the puck in the net. Trent Frederick is having a down year, but he can also penalty kill. He can play center. If you want more center depth, boy, oh boy, maybe Trent Frederick's a guy that you get for your third line. That would look pretty good. Imagine Frederick and Podkolzin on the same line. Ooh, boy, that would be very tough to deal with. Very tough. But Trent Frederick is someone that I would love to get. In terms of other trade deadline needs, I think the priority right now is number 1, a goalie. Number 2, a top 4 defenseman. And then number 3, a scoring winger. And then number 4, third line center that can penalty kill, maybe chip in on offense. But that would be my order priority. Number 1 has to be goaltending. And again, don't come at me with, oh, who's available? Who can they get? Who can they afford? I don't care what the price is. Honestly, I don't. I legitimately don't care what the price is. Unless a team is asking for Stuart Skinner and like a first-round draft pick for their goalie, depending who the goalie is, trade whoever. Trade Pickard. I don't care. I want a Stanley Cup. That's what I want. I want a Stanley Cup more than anything. And I think teams should be more ruthless with how they approach their roster construction. Vegas has no loyalty to anyone ever. And their program has led to a lot of success. Yes, a lot of silliness with the LTIR stuff, but hey, other teams can do it. Instead of complaining about it, I wish my team was doing the LTIR nonsense too. Is it annoying? Sure. But it is a loophole. Teams exploit it. Good teams will find ways to exploit and make themselves better. It should not be an excuse for the Oilers to not make themselves better, in my opinion. So number 1, get a goalie. Number 2, get a second pair D-man. Whether it's a left shot or right shot at this point, I don't really care. Brett Kulak has showed that he can play on the right side if needed. So if you get a left shot, whatever, right? That's not a big deal. Preferably, maybe a right shot would be good too. But I think a left shot top 4 D-man should be the priority, especially in case there's an injury. If you want to prioritize a second pair right shot D man and then a third pair depth left shot D, okay, that works too. If you think you can get an upgrade on Stetcher and Klingberg, get one right shot, one left shot D man for Stetcher and Klingberg. I'm not against that either. But the defense needs just a little bit more help. Just a little bit more. I think there's too much pressure, too much time on ice for Ekholm, who's getting older. Too much time on ice for Evan Bouchard, whose confidence just doesn't look like it's there this season. Too much pressure and ice time for Darnell Nurse, who, even though he's played well for the most part this season, shouldn't be relied on in high-pressure situations, personally. I just don't think he's that guy anymore. If he ever was, I don't know. I like Nurse. I'm not slandering Nurse, but I'm just saying if you can get someone that can help, right? That's just all I'm saying. And then again, a scoring winger would be number 3 on the priority list. The team always has some of the highest expected goals every season, but some of the lowest goals scored above expected. They're always below. They're always negative goals scored above expected because they're a team that generates a lot of quality, but they don't have a lot of finishers. And we're lucky Draisaitl's having the season that he is, by the way. If Draisaitl was not having a career year when it comes to the goal scoring, well, this team would be in big trouble. Hyman has regressed horribly. Nugent Hopkins has had a okay season. Nugent Hopkins, though, he doesn't produce a lot 5-on-5. If you look at the points for different Oilers, it's I mean, I'm just going to take a quick look here. In terms of their forward group, Draisaitl is first on the team in goals with 42. McDavid's next with 22. Zach Hyman at 19. Nugent Hopkins has 16. And then you have Corey Perry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Corey Perry ranks 5th on the team in goals. Corey Perry, 39 years old, can barely skate. Old geezer Corey Perry. Come on, man. Like, the fact that he is the 5th highest scorer on the team in terms of goals, that shows that there's a problem with the wingers on this roster. Does Jeff Skinner deserve more opportunity? Yes. Jeff Skinner has 11 goals this season in, I would consider, very limited ice time. I think his goal scoring rate is at a level where he should be playing in the top 6. He should be stapled to Draisaitl or McDavid. And I know Knobloch, and I know the fans, and I know the narrative about Jeff Skinner's defensive play. I get it. But in saying that, if guys like McDavid aren't going to commit to defense either and go minus 11 in their last 4 games, maybe we're being a little bit too hard on Jeff Skinner when it comes to goal suppression. Maybe you should just be letting this guy go out there and score some goals and feel good about his game. Next up after that, in terms of forwards, Adam Henrique has 7 goals this season. He's the 6th highest scorer for the Oilers when it comes to their forwards. So your top 6 goal scorers: Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins. Those are usually top 6 players as well. So that's great. But then you have Corey Perry and Adam Henrique. A couple names there don't look like top 6 players to me. So they need a top 6 scorer, in my personal opinion, at the deadline. But let me know who you think the Oilers should be targeting. Let me know your thoughts on the trade deadline. What is your priority at the deadline for Edmonton? Is it a goalie? Is it a defenseman? Is it a forward? Rank them for me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And like I said, we are going to take a quick look ahead here at the next 3 games for Edmonton, and then we will wrap things up. The Oilers are in the middle of a Eastern Conference road swing here. They have 3 games left on it. First up is Tampa, who have been playing very good hockey, and the Oilers did not beat Tampa last year in Tampa. The Oilers did not beat Florida in Florida, and the Oilers did not beat Carolina in Carolina last season. And these are the next 3 teams that they play. All 3 of these teams I consider Stanley Cup caliber or Stanley Cup contenders. Florida likely without Matthew Tkachuk, big blow, but you got to find a way to win. Tampa, Florida, and Carolina, this, to me, will show if the Oilers are contenders or if they're pretenders. If they win all 3 in pretty decisive fashion, I will be like, okay, the weekend losses to Philly and Washington, I will be like, you know what? Overblown. The reaction to them, overblown. This team is fine. But if this team goes, let's say 2-1, Oh, that's pretty good. You win 2 out of 3 against Tampa, Florida, and Carolina. That's not too bad. But if they're getting outshot, if they're being outchanced, if they're giving up a ton of goals, the concern will still be there for me. If you're winning these games in overtime, the concern will still be there for me. And if they get anything less than 2 wins, if they go 1-2 or 0-3, oh boy, completely different conversation. It's going to be a tough road swing. It's going to be a tough end of this road trip for Edmonton. But I'd like to see them make some noise here. Because once March hits, once they get into March, after that game against Carolina, March becomes very busy very quickly. The Oilers, for the most part, do have a pretty favorable schedule in terms of their home road split and quality of their opponents. But this team needs to prove that they are a cup contender. They have to prove that they can get the job done against good teams. And they haven't been able to do that this season. But they have a real good opportunity to flip the script, flip the narrative around, and prove to the fans, prove to themselves, and show the world that this is a cup contender. Because right now, I think it's very difficult to call the Oilers a contender with just how they're playing, their regulation wins, their goaltending. They're a team that is good, but they're a team with holes that need to be patched up. But that's it from me. I hope you all enjoyed your stay. This was a very long episode. I haven't done a day after in a long time, so I really do hope you enjoyed, whether you're listening at home, whether you're watching here on YouTube. So thank you so much. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit the like button. And if you really enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as we have a lot more content on the way. We are pushing towards 5,000 subscribers, and I'm excited for the future of this channel. Tomorrow, against Tampa, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, I will be doing a live stream here on YouTube. So if you want to check that out, make sure to stick around. Make sure to hit the little bell after you subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed, make sure that bell is clicked so that you're notified whenever I upload or do go live. The live streams are so much fun. If you've never been to one, please join us. I'm going to open some hockey packs. Engaging with a live chat is always a blast. It's a lot more fun than just sitting in front of the camera talking to the abyss. So thank you all once again. Your support means the absolute world. Tell someone that you love them today. And as always, fight like a kid, fight like Ben. Let's go Oilers.